Hi, everybody. This is Brian Trendler, and welcome to yet another episode of Shut Up and Laugh, episode 39. Very excited about that. Almost at a midlife crisis, want to be 40 plus range very, very soon. Very, very appreciative of all of you listening to this podcast and now watching the Zoomcasts, which are released simultaneously. Looking very forward to interviewing my guest today. And I just wanted to talk for a moment and just give a quick shout out to my sponsors. The first one is Dreamosity, Marcel Allen. Some of you may know she's my business partner in crime with the company Laugh Tech, but Dreamosity, she's a social media trainer, and I like to call her an inspirationalist because she teaches you everything you thought you knew about how to manage your social media, and she can help you do it better. Also, Gentle Frog Custom QuickBooks Training. Rachel is an incredible QuickBooks trainer, one of the highest rated in the Pacific Northwest. And if you have questions or needs, she is the one to help train you to utilize those tools to your best advantage. And then also LT's Pet Sitting. Again, still one of our newer sponsors. She will come to your house, Linda, and she will take care of your pets if you can't make it back to the office, or if nowadays in this world of pandemicness, if you're out and about and just need to make sure that your animals are taken care of, she'll take care of them as if they're her own. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, I'd love to have you consider that. You can just go to anchor.fm / shut up and laugh and click the sponsor link and look at the options. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guest today. Everybody, please give a round of applause for Ashley Gutermuth.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian.
Did I
Thank you for
say it
having
right?
me. Gutermuth. Who
Gutermuth.
knows? Who knows anymore? I
Oh,
pronounce it wrong. It's it's hard. I think Ashley. I should just go with Ashley. Sort of like Madonna.
like
You know,
Ashley G, you
Ashley
know?
G is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, just appeal to those young tykes who use all kinds of weird things and gestures with their hands I can't get to do. I don't know if I'm arthritic at this point or what, but thank you so much for being part of this show today, Ashley.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to you again.
And you know what? Let's go ahead and dive right into that because it's really funny. I have interviewed a lot of people, and it's been really neat because sometimes I don't know the person at all. Other times it's been a long-standing relationship over a number of years, and sometimes with a troublemaker like you, I for some reason I feel that I know you so well and I adore you. And maybe it's just because I'm a very obvious stalker and I've been checking out all the stuff
Fine.
you do
On board.
online. Well, I'm right here, so I'm barely stalking well, but you just have such a great personality. But we've only known each other through one event on our Laugh Tech stage, and we talked about this a
Yeah.
little bit in prior to rolling here. And then I ran into you virtually on a virtual
The
comedy
the
night that
the
you
grind with Dan Mills, the
right with
fantastic
me.
show that he puts on every Wednesday, which is wonderful. Yeah, no, we met way back. I don't even remember. It feels like a lifetime ago now.
It
But
was.
yeah,
It was literally about a year and a half ago, and we just had you up for one of the bits, and I'm already jumping all over the place as compared to my little question list here. But you killed it on stage, girl, and I do want to talk about your comedy, but I also want to dive into a couple quick things first. So before we go into the super
sure.
fun stuff, you used to be around here in the Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest. And then out of the blue, you picked up and you decided that just moving out, you know, that direction, east, wasn't far enough. Tell everybody where you went and why.
So I live in New Jersey now. Excuse me. And so I moved I lived in near Seattle, and I moved to New Jersey. I wanted to be closer to New York, to be able to get in there to do comedy shows. And what better time to do that than during the pandemic? Makes sense when everything's closed. Uh,
I mean,
so, but New Jersey is the closest that we could get to where my husband's job he could still work. So that's why I'm in New Jersey specifically. But I wanted to be as close to New York or Los Angeles as I possibly could. So that's why we made our way across the country. I also grew up in Pittsburgh, so I grew up on
oh,
the
you
East
did.
Coast.
Okay.
We move a lot. We move every 2 or 3 years. My
Hmm.
husband's in the military.
I was just going to
Uh,
say, are you willing to share what he does?
yeah, he's a pilot. He's an Air Force pilot.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's a lot of fun. But it means that we move a lot, and which I like. I've lived in Georgia and Delaware and places that I never would have moved to. Washington D.C. I was in there for a little while. So it's neat. It's a really cool lifestyle. You sacrifice some things because you
Mm.
don't really set down roots anywhere. But like right now, I live on a military base.
Yeah.
Um, and there's things that go along with that. There's always some sort of crazy boom
Yeah.
or some. When I lived in Georgia, they test planes there, and they would test fighter jets that would have sonic booms. So every Friday, sonic boom. A sonic boom, if you don't know what it sounds like your house exploded, and it's and the first time you hear it, it's bam,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh my goodness. And after a while, it got to the point to where my dog and I had no, like, we wouldn't even look up. Like both of us were just like, this is normal.
Yeah.
uh Another cool thing that happened at that test base was I was just in my backyard on the Air Force Base in Georgia, and I looked up, and a stealth bomber went over the house.
Oh my
And on
God.
Air Force bases, they fly a little bit lower. So it's
Yeah.
just like, and if you don't know what that looks like, it looks like an alien spaceship is coming over over your house. You're just like, what is this?
You're immediately
So
ready to be probed, basically.
you're
That's
immediately.
terrible.
I was sending up the signals. Uh, so there's that. There's all the helicopters. When I lived in DC, it was very close to in the city, and so there's lots of helicopters and lots of just a lot of things that make noise. So I do voiceovers. I train to do voiceovers, but a lot of
Yeah.
voiceovers are done from home, and that becomes a problem with trying to record things when
Oh yeah.
there's
Absolutely.
not like people testing machine guns. So that's a
Oh
problem.
my God.
But
So you've immediately dove further into some of the questions I have, and I want to hear more about what you're doing with the voiceover work. But first, I want to also find out, and this is kind of an atypical question I ask any comedians who are on this show. What brought you to comedy? What made you wake up one day and say, I want to be on, holding a microphone on stage in front of either adoring fans or at first a bunch of drunk people who may not care I'm up here. I mean, like what, which one was it first? I mean, what really drew you to it? Because it's amazing the answers I get.
So I've always been obsessed with comedy from when I was uh, very little. So my parents have the same job. They're both helicopter mechanics.
Wow.
So my mom was a helicopter mechanic, my dad was a helicopter mechanic, and they worked at the same places. And so I would, which was usually like an hour from the house, and I was 3, 4, 5, and I would go to work with them. And I would just sit in the car, and they would play Monty Python cassettes or George Carlin cassettes or
Yeah.
anything. So I had all kinds of comedy just ingrained from a very young age. I was quoting Monty Python from very little. Faulty Towers, a lot of British comedy. We had a lot of
Oh
that
yeah.
in our house.
Yeah.
Um, so I grew up with that, and I was always interested in performing in some way. I was involved in, like scam acting agencies where they would they would like, do you remember when you go to the mall and it would be like, oh, we're having a talent show, come
Oh yeah.
and do this. I would go do those, and then you find out it's an obvious scam, many
Or
dollars later.
later. My God. It's like, where's Tommy? Well, Tommy's being sold for spare parts.
Yeah, he's gone. So always obsessed with it, and I did plays, and I did whatever I could. And then probably one of my first times when I did something that was similar to stand up in front of a group was a Toastmasters meeting. I was
Oh,
17, and you have to be 18 to join Toastmasters, but they just let me screw around. So I would get on stage in front of them, and I would just riff on stuff in like an Eddie Izzard style because I really liked Eddie Izzard. So I would do that, and then I did that. They even though I wasn't in Toastmasters, they sent me to a competition, which is kind of funny. But after a little while, they said, we need you to follow the stuff in the book. And I was like, no, I do not want to learn about business
yeah.
and leadership. I want to go do funny stuff.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah. So obsessed and always wanted to do whatever comedy stuff that I could. I have no interest in drama.
Mhm.
I don't even watch it. I won't watch any of it. It's like, why do I want to pay to be sad? um, so uh, I would, when I moved from, I lived in Delaware,
Mhm.
uh, and then there's one open mic a month, and it was like an hour away. And so
Oh,
that was, it's nothing like what it was now where you can just Zoom for everything.
yeah.
And so our plan was to move me to a bigger city so that I could do stand up. So that led us to near Seattle. And so that was my whole plan. I had a whole like list of, okay, this is where I'm going to go. This is
Yeah.
where these are my objectives that I want to hit. And yeah, so that's kind of I was actually able to perform. But I wrote for years. I have
Okay.
notebooks of stuff that I wasn't able to do anything with because I had no stage for 7-8 years.
I was actually going to ask you because I remember your night. I remember your comedy, and you do pretty good crowd work. And that's not meant to sound sarcastic in any way, shape, or form. You seem to like reacting toward the audience's
Hmm.
specific reactions, and you won't necessarily point. And I'm talking like I know about your entire career, but from what I've seen, you don't necessarily pick out someone and say, "Hey, you that just laughed, what do you think about my hair?" or whatever the case is, right? You play really well with them, and that riffing skill, I think it's hard to find. I don't see it that often. So when you say that you have tons of written works, how do you develop your humor? How does it, like, what place do you have to go to where you're just sitting there banging out pages, right?
So the first part of what you're saying, yeah, I love to
Yeah.
play with audiences. I don't ever feel upset if somebody says something to me because it's
Mhm.
always a chance for me to say something back that's funny and in the moment. I always want to be in the moment and not just totally rehearse. Um, the other part of that is audiences love a sense of being a part of something, of being a part of the community. So they, you often hear people say, well, I was just trying to help you. Like, you're not being helpful. But that playfulness, I love that. And I just love being in the moment
Yeah.
and being able to communicate with people in that way. I don't ever see audiences, but a lot of comedians will be like, the audience is your enemy. It's not. They paid to come here. They left their house. They're not your enemy. They're not coming here to throw stuff at you. You treat them like they're your friends,
Yeah.
and you give a little back, and you let them harass you, and it's all fun. It's all for a memorable show. So
Mhm.
that's my attitude towards that. The second half of how do I write? I write every day, and I write for at least 2 hours every day.
Wow.
And I do that when I first get up, and I write. I start in a notebook, handwritten, and then I move to stuff that I've already. So the notebook is new stuff,
Hmm.
any new thought that I have that day,
Hmm.
and then I move into refining older stuff. So I'm constantly trying to make longer sets and try to make everything and all the pieces work. And I'm performing every day on Zoom,
Hmm.
but I take those recordings and I listen back and then I rework and try to think of different angles. So I put in, I mean, I've been on, say 11 o'clock. I've been on since for several hours already on Zoom doing some sort of comedy
Yeah.
today. Already, I do these daily half an hour sets that on Zoom. Whoever wants to show up. If nobody wants to show up, I'll still talk to myself. Uh, and so far I've been lucky that people have been coming. But I'm a real believer in it's not being talented at all. There's so many people that are talented. You
Mm.
have to work incredibly hard. I
Comedy's
in
hard,
see
isn't it?
It's really hard. In
Yeah.
Seattle,
Yeah.
I did I like to do things in streaks. So I have a long running streak. I also had comedy streaks. I would perform my record was 47 mics or shows. No, 67 mics or shows in 40 some days. I can't remember
Oh
exactly
my
now.
goodness.
But it was more than one a night. Just drive from one end of the city to the other. Who's going to put me up where? And just trying to hammer it out,
Mm.
but as much as I can do, I will do. And yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's an unending drive. Now, one of your jokes in my mind famously points out, let's just call it a small layer of OCD, just maybe just a little bit. And some of what you're talking about really is is amazing, and it's driven. It's also numbers based, and it's time and time again. And whether it's
Mhm.
habitual or it's something that you're, I don't like to use this word, but bear with me, that you're obsessing over. Obsessive compulsive people, I don't think they really obsess per se. It's just how they are, how they're wired, etc. I could be completely wrong, but again, I'm now forgetting your joke, Dad Bird. You're talking about 48 times. I
Yeah,
know the
yeah.
punchline.
I have OCD, not diagnosed, but I've checked 48 times.
Thank you, thank you. I
Um,
love that. It's just, it's so sweet and genuine. And I remember you saying that in the audience, and everyone was just, there's that momentary silence, and then they had that uncomfortable laugh, you see.
mhm.
So where I'm trying to go with this is, how do you think your humor is delivered? Because you have a moderately, not really a self-deprecating style to you, but you point out things about yourself and then you just throw it out there and wait for the audience to react. So how do you think your comedy is? What method do you think you use? And how do you think it comes across?
Yeah, so definitely playfulness. I like to be
Mhm.
playful. And there's a lot of things about me that if I said in the wrong way, if I if I come out on stage and I'm like, hey, I have ran at least a mile a day for 6 years. I pick up garbage while I run. I write for 2 hours a day. I do push-ups and sit-ups. I've done the A, B, and C. It starts to just, you're just like, you arrogant. Who do you think you are? Like, but behind all that is really a person that's kind of a mess. You know
Mhm.
why? Like, you can't. Like, I don't relax. I don't sleep. I don't relax. I obsess over everything. I'm paranoid. I'm
Mhm.
constantly thinking that I have a disease. Like my whole life, I've been like that. And the
Okay.
way to overcome that is through control. I'm also very controlling. I think I'm laid back. Everyone else is like, no, uh,
Sound sound a little
not.
tight today, Ashley, right?
There's a theme here.
Okay.
So it's recognizing that the things that I do, while they are interesting and it's doing things time and time again and show ambition and drive. There's also something behind that that's a mess.
Mhm.
I don't really have regular relationships with people. Throughout my life, people have often said something like, "Oh, Ashley finally screwed up. It's about time." And I don't
Oh, wow.
see myself like that.
Okay.
It's almost like there's an interesting level to that. But so, how do I think it's perceived? Where do I want it to go?
Mhm.
Was part of your question. Where do I want it to go? Is exposing people's assumptions. So,
Love that. Yeah.
people, a lot of my jokes are, people look at me and they make one assumption after another, and I get to play with that and go. And that is one of my regular things. Is a lot of people think that I'm gay. I'm
Yep.
not gay. I have a husband. Oh, by the way, my husband is 20 years older than me. And so it's just one layer of up, up,
Yeah.
up. And so then people will say, well, why do you look the way I've gotten that? Why do you look the way you do?
Mm.
And so,
It's like, "This is a
things.
nice shirt and tie. What the hell are you talking about?"
That's right. And I used to do
I pressed
things
this
like
this morning.
exactly. And the reality is, I have short hair, and that is meaningless when it comes to anyone's sexual identity. It's hair.
Yeah.
Back in it wasn't even that long ago, we used to dress little boys in pink and little girls in blue.
Yeah.
And then somewhere we flipped that. Women wearing white dresses for their wedding, that's not even been around for that long.
Yeah.
It's like a couple hundred years. So we come up with these things that are definitive in our mind, and we put
In
people
our
into
mind.
these boxes in our minds, and it's all made up. You
Yeah.
can be anything. And I always want to have people realize, just because you think something about somebody, it's not that's not true. There's not at all. So there's so many different layers to people, and that's sort of where I'm trying to go with it. Right now I have a whole chunk that I'm working on. It's really about how I don't fit in. I don't fit in anywhere, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I've never. I like that. everybody likes to be the special unicorn, right? But I've always, I've never fit in. I always played sports. I wanted to play football and hockey, and I would occasionally do that, but I wasn't allowed to play on the boys' team,
Yeah.
Um, I, I wanted to do all of those things, and I never quite fit in. I didn't fit in with girls because I had no interest in what they were doing,
Hmm.
and still don't. And girls, I would have trouble because they would get into arguments with me, or for a long time through high school, women did not like me. They seem to be all right with me now.
Sure.
But so I'm playing with the idea of how I don't fit in. And a lot of that is I'm a military spouse,
Yeah.
and how I don't look like a military spouse, not even a little bit. And there's, I actually have it right here. And this is about, this is sort of the basis for what a lot of my longer routines are nowadays. And this is a book called The Air Force Wife Handbook.
Oh my
And
God.
if you check that out, look
Oh,
how long that is, Brian.
oh, that's just terrifying to me. Now, is it at all like bona fide helpful, or is it just one insult after another, right? Like how to
It
connect with
is.
your local Rotary or what? I mean,
Yes, well, there's a lot of that, and and you'd think it would be older. It was originally written in 1992, but this copy is from 2009. It's not that old. That's
1992 is not that long ago either.
1992 is not that long ago. You'd think it was like the 50s, right? So, it is there. Okay, so I just randomly opened to a page, and there's a whole chapter on how to eat, and like how to eat tricky food. So the top of it is just how to eat a soft boiled egg. Like what? Soft boiled eggs are served in egg cups, small end up. And then it tells you add salt and pepper if you like. And then remember when ordering a boiled egg that it is safer to order it hard boiled because of the risk of salmonella. Well, thank you.
I was gonna say, this deserved to be put into a book and served right alongside your boiled egg to any military wife who was clueless and said, "What is this in front of me?"
Right
Oh my
along.
God. You could literally just read the whole bloody thing, and that is a routine right there.
Yeah, there's
I
a
mean,
lot of
they
really
put so much
great
stuff.
stuff in there.
Oh
It's
my
and
God.
and a lot of it is still things that we do. Like there's the what I wear to certain events is dictated by like what my husband wears. So they have different levels of uniform, and if it's the super fancy uniform, then I wear a long ball gown. And there's a lot of events like that.
Yeah.
And it is not a bad idea to have something that tells you how to deal with that stuff, but this is too long. It's
Yeah.
317 pages, you know.
That's absolutely
It-
incredible.
it's too
So
long.
I was going to ask you before, and we don't need to go backsies here, but your way of looking at the world obviously was heavily influenced by. I love the fact that you grew up being exposed to all of those, like the radio, comedy,
Mhm.
that type of stuff. And then you mentioned that your parents were funny, I believe, in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form, right?
Mhm.
High school, obviously traumatic for everyone. It doesn't sound like that was a hoot for you.
Yeah.
How did your comedy, not comedy, excuse me, how did your sense of humor help deflect all that crap? And then how have you seen it evolve into how to eat a boiled egg? I mean, that publicized pile of crap that's in your hands right now. I mean, I love the fact that you're smiling and it looks like it's out of joy, right? Like the WTF-ness of the whole thing. I mean, how do you sum up
Grateful.
how you've used humor to help you bounce through some of these things?
I don't often think of it like that.
Okay.
I've always being funny has always been the most important thing to me. Always.
Oh,
Above everything else, and that's not a normal, again, it's not a sane way to think. Because like other people are like, yeah, my kids, like,
yeah.
well, the joke. But that's always been the most important. I remember I used to really struggle with I would throw a lot of jokes out, and I'm talking like elementary school. I would throw a lot of jokes out there and they wouldn't land, because they were too smart for the audience, right? uh, so but I
Always.
remember when it one really hit, and I was in 5th grade. They had released Pizza Hut had started to put cheese in their crust. And part of their commercial was I'll go to the edge and back. And they were all standing on things. And
Yeah.
I, in the middle of class, got up on the desk and said, I will go to the edge and back. Totally committed to it. Got a round of applause. It was fantastic. Which, and that's just, a little recognition joke. Those people had seen the commercial. And I remember, because I would obsess over thoughts. And I would think, oh, that didn't go well. And then I would, how people build things up in their mind you can create any situation, and you can remember something being really bad, or you can remember something being really good. And
all mindset, right?
Right. And realistically, you in both cases you're wrong, and in both cases you're right, because you don't actually remember.
Yeah.
That's why crime scene investigators, the eyewitnesses, aren't a good. They're not as good as, say, a video, right? Because people misremember things.
Yeah.
So I would build things up, and then it hit me one day I'm just going to say to myself, in every situation, I've done the best that I can, which means that I have to do that, right? But that's how I remember things. So just in every situation, I have done the absolute best that I can. And that helps me to process, if a joke doesn't go well, all right, we'll go back and we retool it, and we see where we are.
I love the fact that you stated just point blank that, being funny or even having fun is, one of the most important things, and always has been.
Absolutely.
What have you felt that way? How do I phrase this? I feel the exact same way. So I immediately have just add kinship. I mean, immediate bond there. Do you think that other people have seen that, and has it resonated with them, and has that made them want to be your friend in some capacity? Or have they needed to lean on you because you have that attitude? Because I get that a lot. So like suddenly it's my job to be their GD ray of sunshine or something along those lines, right? Make them laugh, whatever, shake them up a little bit. Do you get any of that?
You know what? A lot of my jokes are, I say them because they make me laugh.
Okay.
I don't ever just say it just because, even though something may technically be funny, I won't just say it. So I'm always out to amuse myself, which is selfish. But
Very self-serving, but it's wonderful too.
and I just have a lot of fun playing with other people. Even when I'll go to these events, and there'll be generals, or there'll be people that I shouldn't be allowed to talk to. And I will say just whatever the heck I think is going to get a funny reaction,
Yeah.
And my whole life, I've always been sort of treated as, oh, it's Ashley. It's fine. It's Ashley. And I can give you a good example of that. And that is, I went to a private Christian high school, and my friends their mom was one of the teachers, so obviously they are very religious. The mom teaches at school, she's very religious.
Yeah.
And when it was their birthday, I think 11th grade, junior year, I gave them a book on septuagenarian sexual positions. And
Never letting you know when my birthday is. Okay.
it's
my
useful.
Yeah.
But it's, but then their mom didn't say you can't ever hang out with her again. It was just, oh, it's Ashley. It's fine. People, because they know that I don't have any mean intent,
Yeah.
they're fine with it. But
Well, and that was one of the neatest things. Once again, during the days when we were doing comedy events for Laugh Tech, Marcel and I would sit back, and we'd always watch how comedians interacted with each other. And I love the fact that you were nice to everybody, including the audience as well, which was something that we always sort of mentally separate those people out from the other ones. And those are the ones that we ask to come back, right? So if you're ever back in this area and we can actually be allowed to leave our rooms, that would be nice to have you back on our stage. So that leads me to another subject, the pandemic.
yeah.
It has completely changed the way everybody does everything, hasn't it? I mean, obviously, we're sitting here in a Zoom call. Aside from the fact that you're now 3,500 some odd miles away, that slightly, changes it up a bit. But within reason, it seems like you've handled it somewhat well from the standpoint of your comedy, being seen and being heard. Tell me about any of the issues that you've come across, and or for lack of better words, how it's going, how you've embraced it, social media, Zoom shows. How have people embraced you with this new format, this new world that we're living in right now?
Yeah, no, it's been uh pretty good for me in the sense of being seen. First of all, I have this set up, right? So you can see me in high def, see into my soul. But I didn't have this before the pandemic, but I got it early on and figured that out to be able to do Zoom shows.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing about the Zoom shows and me doing those every day or as much as I could, that led me to being comfortable talking to the camera, which led to me having one of my clips played on the Tonight Show
Yeah.
and being picked for the Seinfeld Challenge. You know, my audio was good. I was able to be comfortable in that setting,
Hmm.
and then just being able to. I've been able to have more of a routine. I'm not driving as much. I used to drive, an hour each way every day.
Yeah.
And so that's been good for me. Uh, I haven't. I've met so many people. I do shows in South Africa, like
Wow.
like every few weeks, and they got my jokes. It's pretty cool. I would have never have thought, and they've been so nice to me. It's been wonderful. Shows in Belgium and England and just all over the world. I've met so many different people and been able to make so many connections.
Mhm.
That's been great. Now, for the first part of the pandemic, my husband was deployed.
Okay.
So he didn't come back until like midway through. So there was a lot of trying to figure out how that all works.
Yeah.
So but that feels like it was so long ago now.
Yeah.
Everything feels so long ago.
I think we've all
Um,
lost track of time in some capacity, but still,
yeah.
fell
Um,
forward.
forward. That's right. Yeah. With daylight savings, my God. um Screwed everybody up. So yeah, it's gotten me connected to people and on shows with people that I never would have, like real headliners that I
Yeah.
never would have been able to know.
And you're a real headliner too. Come on.
It's yeah, not yet,
You are.
someday.
You are. I think you're there, but that's
I, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully soon. I'm working towards it, and I can't wait to get on the road and just hammer the stuff out every night,
yeah.
and it's just to make sure it's all what I want it to be. Um, yeah, and there's other things that I've learned along the way that I want to do. I like writing, like late night style writing. I've gotten into that, and
Mhm.
just being able to hang out with people around the world. That's been pretty cool to me.
I was going to say I know a lot of people who are in parts of that same boat where some people feel bad saying that the pandemic has been good for me in some way, shape, or form, because those that have adopted the technology early on, or at least finally caught on, like there's the Facebook or whatever, those that have finally said, okay, I'm going to embrace this, I'm going to utilize it in some way, shape, or form. It's not like people are thriving per se, but they're making it work. They're getting more exposure. I'm amazed that you're doing, like you said, Belgium comedy. You said
Yeah.
South Africa comedy.
South Africa, yeah.
South Africa. People are connecting to people on a different level in ways they never thought of possible. So that blows my mind, and I just want to commend you for that. And then you brought up the tangent, which is where I was going to go, is what do you miss the most? And you kind of partially answered that, right? Just pounding the pavement and being out and
Yeah.
about and physically around people. Is that what you miss the most, or is there anything else missing?
No, I miss being actually on a stage. I actually I had a, I've been very careful. I've been out of the house barely at all.
Yeah.
Um and I'm always masked, and I uh I got there was an Air Force thing that I just had to introduce myself to a group of people about 2 weeks ago, but I was on a stage and it was like, I was just like, hey, blah, blah. Like you guys didn't know what was about to hit you. I'm like up there trying to wedge in jokes. I was like, what are you doing? This is a mess. So I miss being up there and in control like that. that, Zoom is great, but it's not at all the same
Yep.
in that way. So I miss that. I also miss hanging out with the other comedians, in the back and chit chatting, and people aren't as free flowing with what they want to say on
Yeah.
Zoom because everything's recorded. And so just being it, or they might just not want to hang out, as
Yeah.
much. So I miss that. But yeah, definitely the being on stage bit is that's the biggest part for me.
Do you feel that there will be some almost retraining, like you kind of hinted toward, where you just grab the mic and suddenly you're just barfing out everything? I mean, do you think that from a pace and from reacting toward, or reacting with the audience, etc., is that something that you and your other comedians are going to have to relearn a bit?
Yeah, I definitely think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Early on, it's a real lag on Zoom. There's like, you got to wait and then it comes back.
Yeah.
But I use, as you can see, I just use a regular stage mic. That's an SM58 standard stage mic. And I did that on purpose so that I didn't lose practice taking it in and out of the stand or talking into it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to lose that repetition, but there's going to be some, it's going to take a little bit of time to get back to where we were.
Yeah. Oh,
Definitely.
I can't wait until that happens.
Mhm.
So tell me, you hinted toward it. You're taking all my questions and running with it, which I love because we're on the same page here. You have this budding relationship with Jerry Seinfeld. Tell us about what has happened, what did happen, and give us the skinny, because there's a quote he said about you that I'll say in just a moment. But what's this all about with you and Jerry Seinfeld? I
Oh,
want to give you
okay.
a chance
Well,
to shine even brighter.
even more. I'm going to grab his book. I'm going to, so we can
Yeah,
see
do
it.
it.
It's right here.
I love it how twice now you've just walked off stage.
Just take this. I have to have my props, Brian.
I know, it's
So
great.
this book is called "Is This Anything?" By Jerry Seinfeld, and it's "Is This Anything?" is something that comedians say to one another, and they'll be like, "Hey, my dog jumped in my bed and something funny. Is this anything? Like, what do you think?" And it's just to see, is
Yep.
there anything in this? Okay, so he wrote this book, and it's all the bits that worked from his whole career. It starts in the 70s and goes up until now. And I saw that NBC had put a call out asking for people to read a bit from the book, and they were going to play it to Jerry Seinfeld. And the whole part of it was to try to make them laugh.
And this was on
Um,
Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show, correct?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct. And so I sent it in and didn't think anything of it because I submit to everything. I just, all right,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Sometimes you never hear anything back. So I submitted that. And then some time went by and they said, "Hey, you've made it to the next round. Will you sign this release just in case you're picked?" And I was, even
Yeah.
still, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. You're sending this to everybody.
Bring the DocuSign. Come on, let's just do it.
Bring it on, fine.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was on Thanksgiving, so they have Seinfeld on every Thanksgiving, and um, I still didn't think I was going to be on, and I don't have TV. So I was like, am I really going to buy Hulu Live for something that's not going to happen? So
Not
I
willing
did
to
it.
take this form of an investment.
It's an investment. So I got it, and it was 11 o'clock at night. I remember being so tired and just being like, "You're being so ridiculous, Ashley." And I woke my husband up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he's like, "No, you should. It's great. Yeah, let's see if it happens." So Jerry Seinfeld's talking, and his segment's like 10 minutes, and I figure, oh, they're just not going to do it at all. And then Jimmy Fallon says, "Okay, and after the break, we're going to have some people read some of your bits and go from there." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And they come back from the commercial, and then they go, "Okay, first up from Wrightstown, New Jersey, Ashley." And as soon as I hear New Jersey, I'm just like, what? Uh-oh. and, and then I'm sitting on my couch watching me on the TV, right? And then you go, oh, shoot. Uh, because now I had put some planning into doing it. So I picked a bit that I knew that was short. I went and I found all the short bits, and then I found one that was about late night hosts, because it's important that you give this is something I consider all the time. When you're doing something, you have to give something to the other person. So I wanted them to have something to talk about. I could pick any bit in that book, but that one they'd be able to go, oh, late night hosts. Yeah, this is look at the irony. What a coincidence. So I picked that one, and then it's like, oh, they have to laugh. And fortunately, I heard them laugh, and then you relax, and you're like, okay, thank God. And they come back, and then Jerry Seinfeld and Jimmy Fallon said nice things. And at this point, I didn't realize it was a competition. At all. There was no mention of that earlier on. So watch the other people.
You did not read all the fine print.
I guess
There
I
had to have
didn't.
been something there.
I would have thought that there would have been, but I think that was just a part of the bit that they added on.
Funny.
And they put my face on screen with the other people, and they said, okay, who do you pick? And then right out of the gate, he goes, well, Ashley Gutermuth, that's who I pick. And I'm just like, I've lost my sense of hearing. Like, you're just like, what do you mean? How is it you can pronounce my name?
Thank God I bought Hulu.
Yeah. And then I started immediately getting messages from people saying, I was just watching the Tonight Show and you were on it. What's going on?
Isn't that amazing? Congratulations. So you won like $1 million, a signed copy of the book. And
Yeah.
what did he write in the book?
He wrote, Ashley, you are so funny. Congratulations. You are so funny. I've got that. That's not what I have 2 copies. This one doesn't have the writing in it. The other one's in a commemorative box. They also sent me a t-shirt, a hat, a water bottle, and a tote bag. But it was just super nice. The whole experience was insane.
Well, and for starters, congratulations, well deserved. I watched the whole bit. It is available on your website, so we'll make sure that we get that out there as well. As if you want to call it out right now, please feel free to.
AshleyGutermuth.com. Keep it easy.
Go. Yeah. Fantastic. What I loved about it the most is Jerry, in his very Jerry way, was like, it's not even that funny, but she made it funny. I mean, like that was his compliment about your bit. That and both of them were enamored with the fact that you had it completely memorized. Yeah. So how many times, I'm just curious, how long did it take for you to memorize that? Because that wasn't actually an easy bit that you picked. It had some nuances to it that I just thought you nailed.
There was nuances to it. Yeah, they from picking the bit to sending it off was about an hour. So I kept screwing it up. I had it all written out, and then I kept screwing it up. Yeah. And as I went on, 20 minutes of talking about late night hosts and doing the joke verbatim, I picked up at trying to find a funny bit at the end, and that's why I do a little wink and like a finger gun kind of a thing. Yeah. And just to try to lighten it up a little bit. But that was just found by doing it over and over again. And where's a funny gesture I can do here? But yeah, he said that, and he put that on Twitter too, which was really nice. And that was fun when he put that out. He put my name in a Twitter thing. Then that went nuts. And it's so funny because people are so mean to Jerry Seinfeld for no reason. And so every time they would like send something mean to him, it would also get sent to me because I'm tagged in it.
Yeah.
It's just like over. It's like, he doesn't care. He's happy.
Oh, no, he doesn't care. Royalties help. He has zero care. But apparently he's such a nice guy in real life, which I appreciate. I could have completely wrong, but from the little I know of him, he's always just been a really caring guy. And I love the fact that he left on a high note with Seinfeld, the show, and everything else, and he's just doing what he wants to now. And when he could just kid around with Jimmy, and that they just have they're just having a good time, and then they bring this in and incorporate talent. I just love it. So congratulations. I think that's fantastic.
Appreciate it.
So I want to tangent now in a whole new direction, and I just want to preface this by saying, ladies and gentlemen, I only run if I'm being chased. And I guarantee you that if that's the case, I will die from the bear. I will be mauled. And anyone else that left me behind as cannon fodder will be completely safe. Ashley, you have run at least a mile a day since 2015.
Yeah.
What is that all about? That's amazing. Tell me and our listening audience and now viewers on the Zoomcast, what is that all about? I love it. I adore it. I follow you on Instagram and everywhere else, and I check in on you. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, every day since 2015. It's over 2,000 days now. I was a terrible runner. I was
Mhm,
really bad, and I would wheeze and just struggle through everything.
mhm.
I've always been good at like things with upper body strength or anything that I can like physically just like push through. I'm good with that, but endurance I didn't have. So
Yeah.
I started running to beat running. I was sick of it beating me. And my husband has to take fitness tests
Mhm.
for the military. And I just wanted to be able to do that with him. And so I found this group. It's called runeveryday.com. And it's where you register your run streak. And
Mhm.
you have to run at least a mile a day every day for a year without missing a day and not walking,
Yeah.
running. And then you can register your streak. People have streaks that are 50 years, where they've never missed a day. They've had heart attacks. They've had broken bones. They've had cesarean sections and
Oh
still
my
ran.
gosh.
We are quite the group. Um, I've had a lot of issues that have happened while, like, I got into a really bad car accident. I ended up with a traumatic brain injury from it, and I still was able to run.
Wow.
And I'm also one of the. There's two camps. One camp is, oh, you can walk every now and again, and it's not a big deal. And then there's me, who's like, if I have to tie my shoe, I'm restarting the mile. Like it
Oh, wow.
doesn't count.
Okay.
I
So
will
you're
restart the mile. Yeah, I take it too far, like everything
hardball. Yeah. Okay.
else. Yeah. So I started doing that, and then about 3 years in, I started to up my mileage. I went to 2 miles a day, and then I went to 3 miles a day, and now I run 4 miles a day.
Wow.
4 miles a day every day. For the first mile, I don't pick up any trash or garbage. And for remaining 3 miles, I run with a backpack and I pick up cans and bottles and whatever I can find. And there's a technical term for that, and it's called plogging, which is
Okay.
combining plogging, picking up trash, with jogging. Um, and there's a lot of people that do it, but I've picked up over 300 pounds of trash, and I've gotten to recycle a lot of water bottles, which are the biggest issue. Water bottles
Yeah.
by far are the things I find the most.
Yeah.
Weird things I've found, people's x-rays, uh, a lot of stuff like that, a lot of knives. I found just, just like social security numbers, um, driver's licenses, a couple of driver's licenses,
Sure.
and I've gotten to return them, so that's nice. But yeah, and I've done it across the country. When we drove from Washington to New Jersey, I was able to see the different states and how they deal with trash. And the city that received my Ashley Gutermuth Clean City Award is Spokane, Washington, which is
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
Spokane is very clean. They have recycling bins everywhere. It was nearly like it was hard to find. I had to really look. And
Litterers are actually shot point blank in Spokane.
it should be.
I,
Yeah.
I have a number of friends over there, and like here, you won't even get arrested if you're shooting up in front of a policeman. Here, as in Seattle, or
Mhm.
Freeattle, as it's called, in Spokane, if you literally if you pop open a straw like that's my motion for the popping of the straw to get it to come out just enough to peel off. If the one little piece of paper comes off and hits the ground, you're gagged and bound. They truss you up
Thank
like a
God.
hog and
That's
cart you away. So I've experienced the cleanliness that is Spokane. But so across the entire country, Spokane wins.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's amazing.
Which was the word? I want to say it was Nebraska. I found so much. Just it was just impossible. And I'm running for 4 miles, takes me about 40 minutes. And just was overfilling. My bag was just overfilling. And sometimes I would drop stuff off. For my 2000th day of running, I ran a marathon, and I have a real issue with um, paying for marathons. So I
Okay.
just did it, right? Because anybody can run a marathon. You just
Just ran
go and run.
alongside them.
Right. And you just time yourself. And I picked up trash, and I would run back to my house. I would drop off the trash, and then all of the stuff that surrounded me, and how much you can collect over 26 miles. It's a lot. We got a lot of garbage out there.
Oh my God. Well, that's amazing from a Good Samaritan side of things, much less you could write a book just on that alone, just stuff that you found, being able to get back to people, all the spare banjos you picked up in
Mm,
Nebraska. I mean, you're doing good deeds here, young lady. You are changing
I'm
lives
trying.
one string at a time. Oh my gosh. So last actual question before we do, well, two little things here to wrap it up. Who do you think was one of the primary inspirations in your life, kind of from the get-go? Like, was there a public figure? Was there a comedian? Was it a parent? Was it a pastor? Was it someone on TV? Whatever. Who do you think was one of your primary inspirations that's helped make you, Ashley, the person you are today, with the amazing, like, super girl S on the hair that beats my coif today? So I'm very jealous. Super jealous. Love
You
your hair.
know, well, thank you very much. When I come back to Washington, I'll cut your hair for you. You can have them
Please
shaved. We
do.
can be twins.
Please do.
Um, I let's see. So mentioned that my mom was a helicopter mechanic,
Yeah.
and because when your mom is a mechanic, in any capacity, or let alone on aircraft, you kind of grow up thinking that like you can achieve, you can do anything the boys can do, right? So
It's
there's
pretty
that.
badass. I mean, like, that's
Yeah,
really your mom's a badass.
yeah, she can fix stuff, and I have no desire to fix anything.
I
None.
have very soft hands.
It's like I have no
I
interest.
use a mouse, okay? This is my idea of work.
um so I spent a lot of time at airports and
Yeah.
things like that, so I got to there's a lot of really cute pictures of me as a kid cleaning helicopters. But
You have
I
to send me
really
one now.
I will, yeah, I will. uh Eddie Izzard is somebody that I've liked for a long time, and
Mm,
I've always liked British comedy. But Eddie also runs, who- and didn't run,
mm,
but decided to just up and create
yeah.
marathons through the desert,
Wow.
and did 26 days of 26 marathons recently, and also ended with a comedy gig. So that idea of trying to do things that seem impossible,
Yeah.
and then it's just nobody else has done it, and you got to go out and do that. I love that. If somebody says you can't do something, well, okay, let's go see if we can. And
It's
we
awesome.
might fail, but who knows?
I love that. Okay. Very good. All right. So last question of the day before we do the James Lipton nod, which I hope you're ready for that. Some people run
Okay.
scampering back into the forest here. But what is the one thing that you want to share with people about you?
Oh, about me. Oh, I don't know. I uh I'm gonna go superficial at the first glance, while I think of something deeper.
So,
One is I am able to find four-leaf clovers. That is my hidden talent.
wow.
That I can find four-leaf clovers, and I can do it to the point where I devalue them. So so
It's only worth half the luck. You're going to be a hit on Wednesday. Oh my God.
Well, it's something that I love to do on St. Patrick's Day. Is I just go out, and then I will find a four-leaf clover. I can find them anywhere. I've always been able to do it, and I will pick it up and just hand it to somebody and say, "Here you go." But here's the thing: if I hand you a four-leaf clover,
Hmm.
and I say, "Here you go," and then you're like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know these existed." And
Yeah.
then I open my hand, and there's 15 four-leaf clovers, and I'm like, "Oh, you want these too?" And you're just like, "It's not so good
Yeah.
now because it's not special."
You.
And that is the funniest thing to watch. To watch people just be like, "You want this one? You want this one? You want this one? You want?" And they're just like, "Where do
So,
I
so
just what do?"
dashing hopes and dreams is your answer.
That's one of my
You
favorites.
underline
Yeah.
it. Okay. All right. Wow.
But yeah, you know what? I overthink a lot of things. I'm constantly worried that I'm going to it's like two different me's. Part of me is not afraid if I offend somebody, and another half of me is so worried that I've
Mhm.
done something that hurts somebody's feelings. I never want to do that. But
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what that is, which is probably what leads me to often talk about myself. But usually when I get to the point where I'm making fun of something that's not me, I have a pretty clear idea of whether I hate it or love it. Uh, because there's certain things like that, especially stuff that's happening in the world now where I just become enraged. It's just like, how dare you? Why are you such a horrible person? And I want to, like be attack towards that in a comedic way. And, I don't know. It's just that's something that I struggle with, trying to figure out the balance of all that and
Sure.
the funny there. I'm always trying to be, and I am generally nice and happy and funny. To I'm funny. I'm giving myself that's great, Ashley. That's well done. I'm super funny and amazing, and everybody should be my friend. I
There you go. Not modest at all.
I but yeah, so I'm always I'll always try to be nice. It sort of devastates me when I find out that I've hurt somebody's feelings,
Mhm.
unless I find them to be like a monster, then I don't care. I love defending other people from, like, if I think somebody's in trouble, I
Yeah.
always want to be the hero. When
Yeah.
I was in second grade, I had a whole escape plan for if there was a fire, how I was going to grab the teacher and swing out the school window. So not even lead her out the school. I was going to pick her
Oh,
up as an 8-year-old and
go
then
big or go home.
swing her through. There's vines outside. I was going to swing her through, and I couldn't wait for this to happen. So there, even if that worked, like she's going to be covered in glass, but there's like a 20-foot drop. I didn't think it through. But I've always wanted to be the hero. I don't know what that is in me, that I
You
love
have
that.
such a
So,
big heart. I just love that.
uh,
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that. That's probably the most brilliant answer I've ever heard for that one simple question. I absolutely love that. All right. So are you ready for the James Lipton nod, where you get three
yeah.
questions and hopefully no one's really ever accomplished this. You answer it with one word.
Oh,
But like I said, everyone fails. So let's just see
okay.
how this works out. So the James Lipton nod. What is one of your biggest pet peeves?
Um, filth.
Filth. You did it. Okay, good, 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 good. Oh man, I thought your head was going to explode there. Okay.
It's just like lack of cleanliness.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
but that's so many more words. Okay.
so many more.
Question number 2. What's your favorite place you've traveled to or would like to? And you can't
Um,
say Nebraska.
can't say Nebraska. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I love Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I go there whenever I drive across the country. And it's if you've never been and you have to go up the mountain, it's the scariest thing ever, because you just think, how did they build a road here? You
Yeah,
just like, we're gonna die.
yeah. So Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yeah.
Okay. Technically that's 2 words,
Mm.
but you said in a sentence, so it's like 156 words. Okay, good. All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Wyoming.
This is the hardest one, I think, and it stumps people often. If you could be known for one thing only, what would that be?
uh well, comedy.
Comedy?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely comedy. But then you got, is it good comedy or bad comedy? Excellent comedy. The most ultimate extreme comedy.
There you
Yeah,
go. So
that's it.
we'll give you 2 words there. So well,
Nice.
no, excellent extreme comedy,
Yeah.
slurred together.
So do you,
I love it. All right, Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. The hour goes fast. I appreciate you playing along. I'd love to have you back again at some point. Again, like I said, pure and simple, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us today. I'm going to end this today with the shout out that is for you, of course, and anyone else out there who's listening and now watching on the Zoomcasts. When you're out there in between these podcasts with everyone around you that you know and love, or just your safety circle during this pandemic, please be a witness, be real, be present to those you care about and love. And why am I asking this of you, Ashley, and everyone else? Because I'm challenging you all to try it. Because sometimes, especially nowadays, we've got to be together, but it's important to take a moment, sit back, and shut up and laugh. Thank you again.
thank you so much.